Most of my audiences are healthcare audiences, so this is really exciting for me to come and talk to lay people about something that I'm very passionate about. But when you hear that I'm a nurse, you're probably hoping, like all of my friends when I go out and we have parties or get-togethers, they always want me to tell them some really gross stories. Well, I'm not going to tell you really gross stories on stage, but on breaks, feel free to approach me and I'll tell you all the gross stories that you want to hear. I got an applause for that. All right, great. But what I want to talk to you today about is this problem that exists not only in your world, but in my world too. I always say that nurses can be so caring and compassionate to their patients, but we can be so horrific to each other. But first, I want you to meet my daughter, Caitlin, and her dog, Saphira. Caitlin is a phys ed and health teacher with a love of dogs and a heart of gold. Caitlin, I'm proud to say, is a good human. Well, recently, Katie had a chance encounter with a dog bully. While walking her dog Saphira in a dog park near her house, Caitlin witnessed a man abusing his beagle. This man repeatedly yanked the beagle's leg, forcing the beagle to sit down. No commands, no cues, just brute force. And it was obvious that this dog was miserable, but the man kept on. And as Caitlin stood there with her own dog on a leash, a dog whom she loves, she struggled. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say. She thought, well, even if I do say something, this man still gets to take the dog home. And if I say something, what will he do? This man was obviously very mean, and he was a big guy. And as she stood there, struggling with what to do, the encounter was over. The man walked away, yet Caitlin stood there. She never said a word. And it was bothering her over the next couple of days. So she did a very courageous thing. She posted her story on Facebook. Where does everybody post their stories? On Facebook. And she posted as a dilemma, and she really asked her tribe of family and friends what they thought she should have done. Well, the responses were quite interesting. One person wrote, you should have videotaped it and sent it to the Humane Society. Somebody else wrote, you should have followed the guy home and stolen the dog. Okay, sure. And then there were monologues about the outrage of animal abuse and how more needs to be done about it. But the common thread in all of their responses was that Caitlin should have done something to stop the abuse. Now here's the kicker. Although Caitlin's a phys ed and health teacher, her ultimate goal is to open and run a no-kill dog shelter. Wow. So, what's the big question? If Caitlin, whose purpose in life is to nurture and protect dogs, can become silent when witnessing the abuse of those dogs, what does that mean for the rest of us? Chances are, any of us in this room, when caught off guard, caught by surprise, even in our own area of passion, might do the same thing. Caitlin's a good human, like those of us gathered here today. But based on the rampant bullying that exists with kids, with the elderly, with animals, with nurses, and with patients, there's something missing. Well, the reality is we live in a world in which good people remain passive in the face of bullying and injustice. As you know, I'm a nurse. People get into this profession for compassionate reasons. I mean, it's certainly not for the crazy hours and the pleasure of cleaning up other people's poo-poo, okay? It's more than that. People become nurses to help, not to hurt. Yet I spend the majority of my time as a speaker and consultant helping individuals and healthcare organizations eliminate bullying in healthcare. Almost every day of my life, a nurse reaches out to me asking for help. Breaks my heart. There was a study that was done. They asked 1,700 healthcare employees, if you witness bullying behavior or like bad practice, bad behavior, would you speak up? Guess how many of us would speak up? 10%. 10% of us would speak up. So, what is true in hospitals is true in schools, in playgrounds, in shopping centers, and even in parks where people walk their dogs. If 90% of us would stay silent when faced with bullying and injustice, well, there has to be compelling reasons. Whoops. Sorry about that. Well, we live in a culture of individualism. It's none of my business, not my responsibility. Or how about in the workplace where I deal with? It's the boss's responsibility. Yeah, I love that one. It's the boss's job to say something. We're overcome by fear, actually paralyzed by it. We don't know what this other person's going to do. Will this person scream and yell at us? Might they embarrass us? Could they become violent? Could we get fired for speaking up? And then we don't know the right thing to do or the right thing to say. We're caught by surprise. And then in the face of bullying and injustice, we become passive. And as a result, we develop weak muscles of moral courage. And then because we're good humans, we beat ourselves up like Caitlin did. And then other people see us being passive, and it just reinforces the culture of turning a blind eye. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning. A nurse is concerned about her patient. She looks to see who's on call and sees that it's a physician notoriously known for screaming and yelling at nurses and making them feel like idiots. The nurse says, I'm not calling him. He's nasty. I'll just try to keep a closer eye out on the patient. A new nurse overhears this, and then several months later, when she's in the same situation, because she will be, she makes the same choice. Think about that patient. What if that patient was you, or your mom, or your son or daughter? Well, I have good news. Thank God. We have a cure. As a nurse, I know that anemia is deficiency of the blood, and we treat it by giving a blood transfusion. I know as a human, being passive is a deficiency in moral courage, and we have a cure for that. The cure for being passive is conscious choice, supported by knowledge and practice. You know, the movement to a hero culture really begins with each one of us recognizing that we have the power and that we have a choice to speak up when we face bullying and injustice. Moral courage muscles are then built by the repeated choices we make on a daily basis. Small choices, repeated over time, help to strengthen those muscles and enable us to act. So if the missing link is choice, what do we need to be doing differently? We have to accept the responsibility. And when I speak to nurses, this is what I tell them. When you chose to be a nurse, you have the responsibility to protect your patients. And I tell them, you have an ethical responsibility to make decisions based on what's best for them, not for you. Nursing is a selfless profession. They have an ethical responsibility, to make the choice to speak up. You got to push past the fear. We all get nervous when we are in a situation where something bad's happening around us. And I tell people that they need to become comfortable being uncomfortable. To this day, because I still work in clinical practice, I still care for patients a couple of days a month. There have been times when I've had to speak up to another nurse, speak up to a physician. I make the choice to do that because it's the right thing to do. But I'm going to tell you, when that happens, I get a surge of hydrochloric acid, I lose my peripheral vision a little bit, but I do it anyway because I have to make the choice to do it. And then you have to prepare. And this means to decide ahead of time that, say, whenever you witness, and you can fill in the blank, you will speak up. I was reading all of the responses to Caitlin's dilemma and watching her response. I could see her moral courage muscles strengthening and the muscles of her tribe. And her very last comment on Facebook, this is what she said: "Now I'm kicking myself for not doing or saying anything. I hope I never see something like this again, but if I do, I'll be ready." And I know she will be, and same with everybody else who participated. None of us are born with moral courage muscles. It's something that has to develop over time. So even if you were passive before, even in your own area of passion, you won't be passive the next time. Don't beat yourself up about it. Because no matter how small you think you are, I love that little dog, or how great the challenge, being a hero is a choice. So I want all of you to stand up. It's a stretch break. Stand up. And we're going to be like this kid. On the count of 3, we're all going to reach our arms out, and we're going to say hero by choice. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hero by choice. Thank you very much.